All right. Okay,
Awesome. Are we ready to go?
we're ready to go. This is, we have Jory in us
So,
on here, and Michael sent me an email just before 5 saying he would try to connect by Zoom, but he's out of town.
so Joy, can you hear me when I speak? You're on mute.
You're on mute?
Yeah, I thought I was supposed to be on mute, but yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great, because that's the only microphone in this room, and I just wanted to make sure that you could hear. All right, if at any time you can't hear, please give us a the double ear and we'll know.
Okay.
All right, great. So can you go to participants and enable, I can do it if you want, to enable screen sharing? Man, Bill.
Magic is happening.
Oh, yeah, you did say so you can turn.
Doubled participant screen.
Nice.
Okay.
It's easy to do. All right. Yeah. All right. Great. Jory, can you see our screen?
I can.
Right. Good to see you all again. And thank you for those of you who were able to vote. That's awesome. We really appreciate that. I hope that wasn't too tedious. I know some folks struggle a little bit with Excel, but anyway, or Sheets or whatever. But anyway, thank you so much. The plan for tonight is to take another look at all 69 of the items on that list, and look at how they scored and get a sense of what we want to carry forward in terms of which items are things that we actually want to bring into our work plan. So carry forward to the work plan. And we can carry things forward, and then we can give them a level of effort. So you can see there are 2 columns here. That's the average difficulty. That's just scores from your question 7. And I'll show you that one in a second here. Question 7 was, how feasible is it for the CC as a group with or without partners to actually get this done? So I have on this sheet the scores from question 7, how feasible is it? And then the scores from question 9, that's the overall, how important is this for your work?
I think I missed that part. And which is
That was question 9.
I think I only, that's what the problem.
That's this column.
Oh, yeah.
So then we're going to highlight ones that you want to carry forward into the work plan. And then we're going to we're also going to give them a level of effort score. So let me, one second, let me just, so we can carry something forward and not put a lot of effort to it. Or we can carry something forward and say, this is going to be a really big deal for us. Or you can choose to not carry it forward at all.
I was just gonna say, some of us had trouble using that format, and we might want to chime in people that weren't able to use the form just as we go along to add extra emphasis where there is interest.
Right. Well, the way to add emphasis at this point is to say, hey, I think that's important. Let's carry it forward. I know this didn't score very high, but let's try and move that forward. And then if we're not quite sure, we can also look for the range of scores. So this is just the average score, but we might also want to look for the range of scores. Like if one person thought it was the bee's knees and somebody else didn't. And there's a huge range. Okay, so the stuff that's already planned, I don't think I think we should carry all of that forward. You already have it planned. So my suggestion would be to take each of the, whoa. Is to carry all of those forward. And then the question is just the level of effort. So, so we're gonna give those scores of 0 to 5. Now a 0 would be the kind of thing of like, yeah, let's do that. Maybe it's a one-off, one meeting, or maybe it's a one-time event. A 5 would be, we're gonna take that very seriously. That needs to be a big chunk of our work plan. We're thinking about the next 5 years, right? So it is perfectly fine to carry stuff forward, give it a low level of effort, and and then we can schedule it in 2024.
And will you be giving us feedback on some of our options and how feasible you think it is for us to carry out?
Probably not, no, that's not my place. Because I don't know your town context. And so, I mean, if I see something glaringly obvious, I would, but I just can't imagine what that would be.
Like
We're figuring this out.
looking at forest fragmentation or something like that, but we haven't really figured out yet. If you could give us
Yeah,
Act 171.
yeah, well, that certainly works its way in, but that's already mentioned in the town plan section, actually, I believe. But
I'm
yeah.
not quite sure where it is, but it's mentioned.
I did bring everybody's ideas in. There were a couple of ones that were mentioned twice. So I deleted a duplicate at the end there, a couple dupes, but everything was brought in terms of all the ideas, both that I had from email and that I had from the in-person meeting. So we've got 67 or 69 or something rows to go through. So we'll need to be fairly efficient. And any other comments, questions, thoughts?
Is that number a typical number when you've done these before? Is it more or less or in the middle?
That's good body work.
Okay.
That's nothing to slouch at. That's a lot of ideas. But that's great.
Good.
And that's great. And as long as we don't try and move them all forward.
Right.
So did you go through the recommendations on the town plan?
I included everything from the town plan.
Oh, because it did look like there were some things that we hadn't discussed that were in there. So
I
just
never-
wondered,
yeah. I pulled everything that looked even vaguely environmental related from that town plan to-do list and left it to you all to prioritize them. Because my notes weren't good enough for exactly the ones that we talked about.
Right. And some of them were worded weirdly, so
Yeah.
it was hard to sort.
And I do have a pointer, so if anyone, this is for everyone's use, so if you want to point to something, all right, so in terms of Cupboards, VT Cupboards workshop with the county forester, that scored really well. What level of effort is that? That's a one-off kind of thing.
We already did it, but we should do it again because it was very successul.
You've done it in the last month.
Yes.
Yeah, we just,
All right.
we had great ones.
Yeah.
Great.
Action.
I like that a lot. Spring ephemeral one.
That was not as well attended.
So that's already
Already
happened
done.
as well, right?
Yeah, oh
Okay.
yeah, all of these are.
Publicity about wildflowers didn't get any scores. I don't think that,
It hasn't,
We didn't know what that meant, maybe.
okay.
Well,
it was a plan.
I have passed off we are doing some more Facebook posting. None of you would, maybe, are you on Facebook? Oh, you are.
Yeah.
So on the Tonbridge Conservation Commission page that Cheryl took over. So we actually, some wildflower stuff some things are trickling in.
Things are gonna happen.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's happening.
It's happening.
So that-
Whether you.
So that's an ongoing thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's an ongoing thing. So that's the sort of thing that we that will work its way into the work plan, but not over a long period of time, but with a low level of effort.
Yes, and I think that's kind of goes into the social media presence, and so it doesn't need to, that specific thing is fine. Thank you. One is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
From
again,
my
we can do
perspective.
that over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that'll be the next set of decisions that we'll likely do, not in an in-person meeting. Okay, Green Up Day.
Happened.
Also already
That
happened.
I have a question about level of effort about that. More effort could be put into that by more people. Or it can go as it has the last 2 years, which
was a lot of effort by you.
this year, but this year I got some, we had some more, I'm getting better at involving more
Yeah,
people,
I mean,
but it could be more, like people are like, well, in our town where I used to live, we did this and this and this, or I don't know, that we could,
You had
But I-
roadside people.
right, like they went around and everybody got the, or we could have road captains, so we made sure people didn't have to come to the dump, because that's sort of a tricky, doesn't totally work really well, but to bring their own stuff down, or we could meet at the town center and all get bags at the same time with a pancake breakfast and go out, or, you know, like you could do more, but we also do a lot of stuff, and maybe we look like medium level is fine.
How would you characterize the level of effort now on a way 0 to 5 scale?
3.
One person, but a lot of effort, a 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know how.
So
to
the
do it.
question is, we want to make it bigger,
Yeah,
5
or is
is
it not that?
big effort.
Yeah,
Eliza, was it helpful to get the maps with the circling who was gonna?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very, that's a little bit of effort. That was very helpful. And I had big maps, but then like people didn't come in who had cleared those roads. So I don't know if it actually happened. Like there was a lot of promises, looked great. I didn't see those people come in,
Yeah,
but I assume they did it and they just brought it to the dump on other days or something. But no, that was very helpful.
so at 3 now, what do we want to do next year? We want to put more effort into it.
And the 3 is not an exact science, so you can still put it as a 3 and
And
put
make
more effort
a
into it next year.
decision to put more effort. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Let's-
if we're feeling now like it's not our priority to do a huge cleanup day, which to me is fine. I think we've done,
What percentage of the roads you think got cleaned up?
people
know.
promise, what people promise, I would say is 75, 80. I think it's pretty good.
So we'll call it a 3. And we'll,
Yeah, let's sit with a 3.
the bird walk.
Hasn't happened yet, but
And what's in terms of level of effort, what's the plan?
I don't think there's a lot of, I haven't done it before, but I think maybe the 2 or 3.
It's a
Yeah.
one-off kind of
it's
deal, right?
it's-
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
not a big deal.
It
It's
happens,
like
it like happens
couple of
every year,
times a year.
Okay.
every year, but it
Who's
doesn't.
doing it? You-
Michael's doing it,
Mike.
he's gonna show me the roads, but yeah,
I think of
Just
2
all
that,
dynamics, like,
yeah.
a 2, and we could decide to put more effort in it if we wanted to hire some expert to come in from somewhere.
Yeah.
I think 2 could be fine for there.
All right.
Mhm.
All right, great. Trash cleanup in the first branch.
That's scheduled with the White River Partnership in fall. And they
Okay.
have helpers from the law school, so usually, we
Okay.
didn't have any last year, but.
So is that a bigger deal than green? Is that same level of effort to
It's
clean up
kind
there?
of a one-off.
Yeah,
It didn't involve a lot of effort because there were 43 tires we pulled out.
seems like it falls the same type of thing as green.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and to be clear, level of effort is not the total number of people. It's how much work you all need to put in making it go.
Not that much effort because of White River Partnership things.
Do they spearhead that?
So would you say a 2 or a 3? Betsy, because you're the one who organized it last year.
Maybe
A 3.
I think
All right.
that sounds, yeah.
Great. Ongoing vernal pool inventory.
that does take some time. And we're still collecting. I still now gotten a couple more ideas to go look at. And I may have missed the window this year because it's been so hot and dry, and a couple of them are dried up, I noticed. So
Yeah, so that's more like a 2. It takes some work, but is it just you?
well,
I'm gonna try to help out with that.
I have had volunteer helpers, so not necessarily on conservation commission, but, and we have had vernal pool workshops with the Vermont Center for Eco Studies. Steve Basio came over to train. So I would say it's just a short window, you know, April through May. So that it takes some effort during that short window, but the rest of the time it doesn't take much effort.
Okay, let's call it a 3 and acknowledge that it's a shorter window, like some of the others. And then the attendance on the trail committee and participation there. I will just note that of the ones you have voted on for ongoing, this scored the lowest. But what level of effort do you want to throw at that?
The select board has, and the planning commission have appointed one member from the conservation commission to serve on the trails committee, and that is me, and I am also the secretary. And it involves at least one meeting a month. Now, we just had another meeting to walk some trails on the town forest, so that has in the past year taken a lot of time and a lot of effort, but I think it is important that we be part of the trails committee because the select and the planning commission have requested that we have a seat at that table.
And I think like there's some, having run into Jonathan Bignell at
Yeah.
cleanup day, like there's some fun stuff, like actually fun stuff coming up,
Yeah.
maybe of just putting simple trail on the town forest that
Yes.
exists for that purpose, and it's all, so I would imagine that will continue to take some effort and time and thought and our attention.
Yes.
So what degree of effort does the Conservation Commission want to have their representatives put into this? What level? Because
But it also, like, for instance, when we walked the town forest the other day, Jory and Ellen were there as well. So, and we put it out to the membership of the Conservation Commission, and that was great to have.
I would
More-
say that's a 4 maybe, because, and if I need to make the case, I will, but if I don't know.
It's tough when we're talking about something that kind of one person does. And as long as that person is happy doing it and thinks it's important, then we should acknowledge that it's a big amount of work. But if it's something that you're thinking, this is going to change as we're talking about ideas that we're thinking about doing in the future, then where that level of effort business is going to mean like, okay, are you guys serious? Because somebody in this room is going to have to step up and preferably.
That is a good question, because I do think this is one that could take much more of our volunteer time, like outside the committee, not too much of our meeting time. But I see Jonathan trying to get a lot of people together to work together, like literally like shovels and making
Yeah.
signs, that kind of thing. And
And
I think it seems like a good idea, so that's why I would say, like, let's intend to think, some of our weekend time for some of us might be that, I don't know.
the other thing is, as I understand it, we've been appointed to have one member of the Conservation Commission on that Trails Committee. It doesn't matter who it is, it could be a rotating member. It doesn't necessarily have to be one person all the
Yeah.
time. If we could shift it around. I
Okay.
try to report back what happened at the meeting.
That by default is a lot of that. Every month you're going to a meeting.
Yeah.
And it's just that alone is fair amount of effort by that person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Starting.
Well, I think that it probably should be like the election of officers. That would be the point at which we would rotate. If the person wants to, an opportunity to rotate the one person that's going to the meetings and coming back and saying, geez, we need workers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing that 4 sounds like a good number.
Seems like it.
All right. Okay, so now we're getting into stuff that's in the town plan, that you all may not, that you all haven't necessarily suggested. The town should conduct an inventory of wetlands and vernal pools. Is that something we should carry forward?
So I didn't realize that's what these were coming from, and that explains the language more.
Yeah, why it's
Yeah.
redundant.
And so now knowing that, I think that makes me think they're a little more important because that's something that's.
It is the inventory of our natural resources in town, which is, and we have been talking about wetlands.
So, and we already gave that,
Yeah, so an effort, so.
Well, we said that it would be, the amount of effort would be a 3, and that the average score was a 4. So it seemed like a really good idea.
like 3.
So I'm hearing, first of all, carry it forward.
Yeah.
Are there any disagreements about carrying this forward?
No.
Okay, and then level of effort, I heard a suggestion of a 3. Does that sound realistic?
It does, because it can be, it's a short period, one time a year. And we can think about doing it over the 5-year period, once a year during the vernal pool time.
And some of the work has been.
Well,
Oh, well,
The
Oh,
wetlands,
this is bigger than that.
I
Yeah.
think this is much bigger than that. I think this is, it was, the work that would be involved would be you all finding money, hiring a consultant. So the work would be writing up an RFP, selecting a bid from a consultant, and then doing postcards to landowners, looking for landowner permission for the consultant to visit their.
Yeah, for both the vernal
Yeah.
pool and the wetland.
Well, that's how an inventory is usually done.
Yeah.
I would say vernal pool is part of, is a type of
Of
wetland.
wetland.
That's a big, that's a
That's
huge.
a big,
amount.
that's a huge thing.
And it's really huge because you're talking about going on everybody's private property. So it's like,
yeah,
it's like almost a daunting type of thing.
I
Yeah.
envision it as we've got identified wetlands already in town, and if we know of other wetlands, we would add to that inventory. And without necessarily a consultant, but
Okay.
What
That's not what this
inventory?
language
Yeah.
says. This says conduct an inventory, which
but doesn't the biofinder already have a lot of wetlands identified
Well,
on it?
from the Vermont Significant Wetland Inventory, which isn't particularly great.
There's loads of wetlands.
How did our capacity numbers look, for ours? Because, I mean, somebody would have to really know how to do
Yeah,
this.
and
And
Rudy
And that's
would
what,
be.
plus the suggestion of, you might have to hire someone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What happens when you hire someone and
Oh, yeah.
70% of the town says you can't come on my land?
Well, I mean, it still works.
Okay.
But we've never had numbers that high.
Oh, maybe I might be it.
And I've worked in towns a lot tougher scene than this.
Yeah.
Cabot did this, and that's a much more private property right scene.
I don't know.
General cost for consultants. How much do we-
Well, this just says vernal pools and wetlands, but a wall-to-wall natural community map is in the $15,000 sort of range. And then, municipal planning grants would give you 12,000 with match. So it's a big deal to do an inventory for sure, but you have 5 years.
And could I just ask on the town plan, how, did they say it was long range or short range or?
Forgive me, I don't know that.
I-
well, they can say anything.
Yeah, but it's
But
like,
the reality for this commission is it would have to be long range for us because
I would say
of what it would, money and the ability to do it.
And we need to get the planning commission and the select board behind it.
I would say you give it a 2 because it needs to fester and like gain momentum. And somebody, a couple people probably have to say, all right, we're gonna give this some serious thought on how to develop a project of this size. So
I would
Yeah.
vote with
it
you.
needs to happen because it's gonna take 5 years.
Yeah.
Also, would it be possible for us to just kind of keep going so we can see
Yeah.
and then come back to it, because maybe
Sure.
that might
Sure.
weigh in.
Flood hazard regulations should be extended to limit development in river corridor areas identified as at risk to fluvial erosion. So this did not get a particularly high score among you all so far.
I'll tell you why I scored it low, is that I don't see, being new to the Conservation Commission, I don't know a lot yet, but it doesn't seem like it's this responsibility of this organization. It's like zoning type of.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would
It
agree.
is listed under the planning commission as long-term, so I would give it a low.
Anything like that.
I mean,
I-
if we identified that erosion at the river was a big problem for our town, we might feel differently about that.
Yeah.
We would go to
as-
the planning commission
Yeah.
and the select board with that, but
And it may be a big issue and we just don't know.
Just
I'm not
as
saying
an
it's
So
not.
advisory.
remember, we can't carry all
Not.
69 of them.
Yeah.
Just function as an advisory.
I'm sorry, what do you say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said, I would think that the Conservation Commission would just function in an advisory way and not to actually
Like you
do
suggest.
the
Yeah.
inventory.
Sure. I mean, things like this, if you wanted to carry them forward, you could hit it directly by going to advocate for it in front of a planning commission meeting. Or you could hit it indirectly by investing in walks and talk series or an educational series about fluvial geomorphology and erosion risk and what's your flood risk and all that.
so I say the 1.
First of all, do you want to carry it forward?
Oh, do
Or-
we want to carry it
So the
forward?
town plan identifies it as a PC task.
And a big term.
Okay, I don't want to carry it forward.
Okay. All right. Is there any disagreement about not carrying that forward? All right. Tonbridge should consider prohibiting new development and maintaining vegetative buffers within 50 feet of surface waters in town. Is that something you want to carry forward?
That's also under planning commission long-term on.
That again strikes me as like.
I think it's a great goal.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's in our capacity.
I think
Right.
the Water
Priorities.
Partnership is working on that as well.
This is regulation. This is saying prohibiting development and maintaining buffer within 50 feet.
Yeah.
So that's a regulation that the PC. can
No.
consider. Okay. All right, is there any disagreement about not carrying that forward? As, in terms of work of the CC in the next 5 years? All right, and again, some of these issues do show up in your ideas differently.
Mhm.
They don't show up as pursue this regulation. They do show up as explore, walks and talks or whatever. Okay. All substantial improvements to structures should be elevated 2 feet above base flood elevation. What do you do with that?
No, thank you.
I think it's the same outcome as the last one.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any disagreement about that? Base flood, 2 feet up. All right. Again, I wanted you all to make these calls, and so I'm sorry if there's things that look ridiculous on here to you all.
It's good practice to say no to something.
Get your reflexes going.
Yeah.
Okay, Tunbridge should continue to work to update hazard mitigation plans and emergency preparedness and recovery procedures.
And I think there is a whole committee or
Right.
a crew of people who are doing that. actively and have been, so.
The other-
Am I hearing, sorry, am I hearing, don't carry that forward?
I would say not to, because
I'm fine with not carrying it forward. The only thing that's brought to mind to me that I think maybe is missing, and maybe I just don't know if it exists, is like food security and resource mapping, not necessarily natural, but like, I know Sharon works on everybody knowing where all the chainsaws are in your neighborhood and thinking about if there was, if transportation stopped, if gas ran out tomorrow and you couldn't, how do we take care of each other locally? Like who has the food and who has the machines and who has the solar powered well pumps or whatever, which is sort of interesting and maybe not related to us. And I say we don't need to carry that forward. I'm just throwing the idea out there to fester.
I know people do know where the generators are in town. I mean, there has been some of that work where who has what in neighborhoods.
Okay, so I'm not hearing any motions to carry that one forward. All right, the town should continue to maintain and update town bridge and culvert inventories. This information should be used to develop a schedule to replace and update undersized structures.
Road crew?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
I don't think
that's
we
very
touched that one. Frankly.
No.
Okay. Continue to support the White River Partnership water quality monitoring and watershed planning efforts of the first branch, including projects identified in the 2014 White River Stream Geomorphic Assessment and River Corridor Plan.
So isn't that all totally being done by the White
Yes.
River Partnership?
Yes.
Ongoing, like permanently?
We could
I
offer
think
to help,
supporting it is
help
good.
with monitoring, but they're doing it on their own.
Yeah.
anyway.
I think that's sort of covered in the White River cleanup. That is support. So you could say that's brought forward at like a 1, like we keep an ear out if they're looking for help. We're
But also, I would like to get reports on what the water quality is. We never,
It's
I don't know
all
how
online.
you ever
it's
know.
published every
all
week
online.
all summer.
Oh, it is?
Every time they take samples and everything's online.
They take it at the fairgrounds.
They get
And does it, is anybody watching it to see if it fluctuates? or
Yeah.
there's-
Probably.
Yeah.
I know the Whitewater pastors are watching.
Oh.
When it rains, it goes up. It's worse on 14. There's more cow farms upriver. It's worse like at the High
check-
Bridge.
Yeah, I check the
Yeah.
results. once in a
Oh,
I
while.
wouldn't swim there. People swim there all the time.
Yeah, that's because you're a water quality guy.
So we already have one
Good
that's
idea.
carried forward, so I'd rather not carry this one forward.
Yeah.
Because let's just flag that we have something that's related.
Yeah.
Because if we carry this forward, it'll be its own line that we'll need to then work into the monthly plan. And it won't be at all clear that we're actually meaning the other. one.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Investigate mapping and improving public access to the river for recreational use.
So was this in the town plan?
All of these, this is the whole section from the town plan.
I mean, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's an amazing resource, goes right through town. And it's tricky because it's
It is
all
flagged.
private property, but it says investigate. You can find out that it's impossible to gain access for the general public or not. So,
It's a great path actually from the fairgrounds down to Vernal.
Yeah.
Covered bridge to covered bridge and.
Right, so
That's
access for
possible.
just even taking a boat out or putting it in, or for kids to go to a swimming hole,
And there is a
whatever.
swimming hole too.
And this is something Betsy you've been talking about for a while.
Yeah.
I would
I think I'd like
I
to
would
carry it
bring
forward.
that
I don't know.
forward. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've heard 3 carried forward, 4. All right, so let's carry it forward. And then level of effort, and I don't know your list of ideas well enough to know if there's things that are similar, but what level of
There are.
effort should we throw at investigate mapping and improving public access to the river for recreation
And this is in the.
Over
next
5
in
years.
5 years?
Yeah. I think part of the green up / river cleanup ties into kind of investigating where the access points are.
Oh, if it's a cleanup, you're gonna walk the whole
Yeah,
thing.
So am I hearing a 2? Am I hearing a 3?
Does this group want to put some effort into this over the next 5 years? Well, I mean, we haven't mapped
Yeah.
out exactly what it is, but would you like,
Right, I think so.
okay? How much?
Yeah, give me a number.
At least
Volunteering.
2 or 3 and.
yeah.
Put a 3.
Okay. All right, well, we're moving right along. Number 21. Conduct a mapping study of groundwater resources in Tunbridge.
I think that's being done a little bit, or has been done by Brenda, at least for the town, village. I would,
Is that in your, who?
And please.
well, it is tasked by the Conservation Commission,
Yeah,
long-term.
groundwater resources.
So that is like even more daunting than the other.
Yeah.
Like,
It's,
oh, it is documented on the A&R maps. There is, all the wells are documented, right?
If it says it's tasked to us, I think we
we gotta
should do
put
it.
it. Okay.
I don't know.
This could mean just calling the Vermont Geological Survey and say, hey, can you help us map our groundwater? They certainly help Brandon.
Really?
There were, Spring Road is named after springs that were up there for medicinal purposes at one time in history, Tonbridge history. There were people that came to visit for the mineral baths, I guess.
Yeah, there's a long history of those spas that
Yeah.
were a really big deal for out of staters. So what level of effort? I'm hearing that we should carry it forward because it's in the town plan, but we don't have to knock it out of the park. What are we talking about?
Like 1 or 2 probably.
So when you say level of effort, that means the level we're ready to commit to, or the level we think it might take to actually make it happen?
No, this is the level you're ready to commit to. This is how much energy you want to throw at it.
I think.
0.
Yeah, we got a 0 over here.
I hear a 0, I hear a 2. Can I settle it at 1?
Yes, 1.
All right, the planning commission, so this is not
Zero is an option.
It is, yes.
See
Yeah,
that weird?
that's like the most half-hearted efforts. So the planning commission should consider creating a policy regarding development and riparian buffer zones in future versions of this plan.
I think you get rid of that because it's not us.
Don't carry forward.
I think, I don't.
Tonbridge shall participate in the White River tactical basin planning process.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. So there are basin planners for each basin in Vermont. And the basin plan is an attempt at getting all the partners together and saying what you care about and what the plan is for that basin. And the basin plan is supposed to guide A&R's, Agency of Natural Resources efforts, but more particularly DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation's efforts for that basin in the coming years.
So would our basin be the 110 Valley, or it includes the White River?
The whole White River might be a single basin plan. And so what that means is if you were to be more involved, it means going to the meeting with Danielle Ozarski, who I think is your basin planner, and saying, you know, and providing input in those meetings.
What division is that?
DC is the department.
No, within that.
Oh,
within
watershed
each-
division.
With the watershed.
Yeah, the watershed planning division, and then there's
Okay.
Ethan Swift is in charge of that group, and I'm pretty sure Danielle is your basin planner.
I would put it very level, because Rudy is
Oh,
keeping
yeah.
track of all that for us.
I wouldn't bring it forward.
Was that tagged
I
for
would
you?
agree
all? I
with
think
you.
I bet it
I
was.
just think it's beyond
both
us at this point.
conservation and
Yeah.
short term also, but Rudy's, I think Rudy's.
Probably involved. Okay.
You
So-
could bring it forward and say 0, so it's on our radar because it was assigned us.
Okay.
I'm just suggesting, I don't know.
What do you think? So,
Maybe, yeah, it would be interesting to keep track of the process and maybe go, I mean,
So this
Be
way,
involved.
it could be on our radar, and maybe it
Yeah.
pops up in our agenda once a year to say,
yeah,
is someone going to that?
yeah.
Well, that's what a 0 might do. right?
Yeah, that's-
Makes it a tickler.
okay. How does this feel?
Once a year, we Google what tactic are they using. Yes.
So they write them, and I forget how often it's EPA required. But I think they sit for 5 or 8 years. So it's like, I don't know when your basin plan is up for renewal. So it would be like a slug of meetings over a 6-month period, and then it would be done.
Yeah.
But I mean, just knowing who your basin planner is and having some level of communication there isn't a bad thing. Okay, Tonbridge should develop a source water protection plan for the Drew lot of the town forest, clarify deeded water rights from these sources, and develop a plan for future allocation. So that's all about allocating water at Drew lot.
That's under the planning commission long term, so I don't
Yeah,
think. it's
that
a
that
fair-
is not us.
That would be the town forest people.
Yeah, and the planning
Brenda,
commission
that's all
together.
Brenda.
Yeah.
Okay, encourage owners of necessary habitat for threatened species. Now, necessary habitat is a legal term. Of threatened species to contact the state for assistance in developing a management plan for these sites. What a cop out. Oh, the landowner needs to figure out what to do with it. Okay. Anyway, so that is, that is about your rare, threatened, and endangered species. Necessary habitat is the legal term for the land that those threatened species use. And so then that would say, like, for people who own that land, they should learn more about what management for those species looks like.
Doesn't the A&R reach out to those people anyway?
No.
If it's on the boat?
No.
Because there are whippoorwills that I would like to try to protect, but I think the neighbors do know. They certainly know they're up there.
And whippoorwill certainly shows up elsewhere under your IDs. So, I mean, there is crossover here.
Okay.
Who is that? Is that,
It's tasked under the planning commission long term.
is there a, BioFinder layer that says, like, we think you have what's
Yes.
something?
It's also on the atlas.
So it would be as simple as we assign someone to look at that and say, these are the areas where we would send somebody a postcard.
Yeah, I gave you that map in the PowerPoint that I gave, whatever that was, a month ago or 3 weeks ago.
So.
Anyway, well, we should tell the planning commission that's what they should do.
Yeah, or give the map to the planning commission. We did this for you, but guys.
We'll do it. It's
We
just
will.
a cop as
We
cop
are
ideas of things.
So I'm not hearing any great love for this one in terms of your, like, am I right here?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Research what other communities in Vermont and elsewhere have done to minimize the spread of invasive. Again, invasive show up in a bunch of places in your ideas as well. So I think we should just carry this forward no matter what. Well, I guess I shouldn't say no matter what, but there's so many mentions of invasives. It seems like this is gonna happen a bit if any of those get carried forward. Should I carry it forward?
And the next couple too.
Yeah, thank you.
Just, yeah, carry them all forward.
Yeah. all those that are-
Okay, so then what level of effort do you want to put on this idea of researching what other communities in Vermont have done to minimize the spread? Like a 1? Like a 0?
One.
It is kind of important.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, invasives can be.
There are some good
It's
ideas out
important,
there.
you know?
Yeah.
Other towns have done some
Yeah.
interesting things, so
Yeah.
it's
I
worth.
I
checking
don't
out.
think anybody else is gonna do it either. I don't see
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah,
any
good.
other committee showing interest in that at all.
Richmond hosted a dinner. If you can't beat it, eat it. They made garlic mustard pesto.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Okay, so invasive species education, this is specific to advise utility crews, road crews, private landowners, and local excavators and construction workers to take care to minimize the spread of invasives such as knotweed, turtle, parsnip, and loosestrife. So this is education specific to utility crews, road crews, landowners. And
Everyone on the planet.
Do we have that much trouble with triple loosestrife here?
I
Loosestrife?
bet you do in the wetlands.
Yeah, sure, yeah. It's like where cattails really.
Yeah, there's like a
Yeah,
month a year
don't
where it's just,
see much of it. Oh, it is.
it is beautiful.
It is.
I think it
I
should
have
be-
some near my pond, but it's just kind of.
It's not like
struggles
it's not
along.
either.
Not-
But you know, the parsnip, that's one that your road crew moves around, right? It gets on the mowers and if they mow when it's going to seed, they're spreading.
And also under this topic of invasive is these jumping worms now that are, is that on your radar? Or do we need to
I am
be worried
freaking out
that?
about them currently. I can, yes.
You know, the map of where they are in the country is Wisconsin and Vermont. And I just met someone who has them in Royalton. There's.
Yeah,
they
no,
are
they're
there,
Tunbridge.
and they're a problem.
So I think we need to keep focus on moving down because I know that there is a lot on invasives in the ideas people had here. So I think if we can just decide
Yeah.
we're gonna keep it on and we're gonna.
Town meeting, I know it was last year. it came up.
Yeah, they
I
did.
know,
They
yeah.
mowed
So-
earlier. They mowed
Yeah.
the turtle like the next day.
Did they?
Yeah.
So,
But
So what are they doing this year?
Okay, so my feeling on this one is advise utility groups, that's not really a good, I don't think that's a good place for us to be in. Advise utility crews, like,
Yeah.
we're not their bosses.
Right.
We can advise the select board. Anyway,
And then they also put landowners in there.
yeah. So I would say bring it forward because it's gonna be part and parcel of the whole
Yeah.
invasive species.
And I would say invasive species also includes things other than plants.
Yeah. So what level of effort do you want to do for this education piece? And just like education for landowners?
So what about, I think there's 3 invasive topics, right? Maybe more.
Yeah.
There
We
are
can
more.
lump them all together as a
Yeah.
one, and then maybe we can consolidate it
Yeah,
into
we're
one
gonna figure
invasive
out-
issue.
over 5 years, you can
Okay.
develop
make
a
sense?
plan for what you're
And
gonna do
the other
each
thing
year.
I would like to see is at the transfer station, can there be a place where you can bring invasive plants? So you're not
Yeah.
just chucking them into the road or.
Right, so we could take all these ideas, squash them into
Yeah.
one manageable
Yeah.
thing, get rid of some.
Yeah.
So let's just call it a 3 as a placeholder for your invasive effort.
Yes,
Yeah.
Does that work for now?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. All right, the road crew,
So that's all,
This is
those,
another-
that goes
those
to,
next 2 are.
All
The
over
whole
together.
thing. the whole thing goes under.
all right.
Yeah.
And I'm just putting those, I'm putting threes in there, and again, we're gonna lump them.
We can deal with it.
All right, are we okay with this? So
Yes,
I'm carrying them all forward, I just gave them a 3, but we'll lump them.
Yep.
And we can do that for the work plan. When we transition this into filling out the dates to the right, we can lump, okay. All right, great, now, we are moving into your ideas. Whoa. How did I do that?
Although still under the town plan, I have a star next to under the energy section. Possibly weighing in on sites for small scale energy production such as solar, wind and hydro. But that's only if that becomes.
Right.
Yeah, my trackpad is messing me up.
Yeah, that happened to me. I got all out of whack. They didn't even know what question it was.
Okay, connect with new residents by community orientation, like a walk in the town forest or a bus tour. Now, why don't I see scores for this?
You scroll to the right. You see if A and B frozen or A frozen. Yeah.
I don't think I like the bus tour idea, but the walk idea.
So what do you all think? So this, you thought it was a 4 in terms of the average difficulty, like it was a big ticket item, and you gave it a score of 3.5 as an average. So folks liked it. Here, what do you all think about carrying this forward?
I'm not sure specifically targeting new residents. I think we do already have walks planned for all residents, and it's good for new residents to mingle with existing. So
So I'm not hearing carry this forward.
I think there's probably things like a little bit more pressing.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants to make a case for that one? Making room? Okay. So provide the planning commission with more in-depth data and understanding of Act 171, forest integrity.
well, I would think we would need more information and understanding on Act 171 and direction from. I thought there was going to be a reissue of the recommendations from either A&R or somebody on what we should be doing.
Well, there is that policy document.
And didn't it get updated recently or not? I thought it was in the works. Somebody.
No,
Oh, it's not.
if anyone would do that, it would be me.
Yeah.
Like,
What are you waiting?
I did the last one. But anyway, in terms of what you all want to do with your relationship with the planning commission, the idea of more in-depth data and understanding of forest integrity. So that requires that the town plan include blocks and connectors for blocks and connectors.
And I think that's very important. And we do, I have tried to reach out to the A&R about forest blocks and connectivity and wildlife corridors that are specifically on this western ridge that aren't really flagged as a high priority by the.
Well, again, you should reach out to me.
Okay, I will. I've got some maps. Here.
I am currently,
And I've got the,
yeah, Anderson's work, yeah.
these maps are
Yes,
the nature conservancy mapping.
Mark Anderson, yes.
Yes, that's showing.
Yes.
So I will reach out to you, but I
Yes.
think that is important, and I do want to do that because I think
So I want to take the I and bring it into the we. Do we want to study in-depth data and increase our understanding of Act 171 and forest integrity as a conservation commission in the town of Tunbridge? That's,
I think so, yes. I don't think it looks very flashy, but
No.
I think that as more and more people move here and as more and more people with lots of money move here, there are likely to be more and more roads through large pieces of property to houses on hilltops,
mhm.
or which sort of
Especially-
includes my house that I bought. So just owning that. And so if we understand what forests we have now, so that's my vote for yes. For the vote.
and aren't we required as a town to do this?
Yes,
And it's gonna have to be us. It's gonna be.
yes,
us.
but that's a question of when your town plan is redone.
It just got redone.
Okay, then it's not, this isn't required in the next 5 years.
Oh, really?
Well, so your strategic plan is 5 years, the town plan is every 8 years. So what we're doing right now is the next 5 years. And it wouldn't be required until it's the next iteration of your town plan. But anyway, it sounds like you want to carry it forward. So
Yes.
what level of effort do you want to put into that? And this is, remember, this one is specific to providing your planning commission with that understanding. There are other things that are related, they're very related. I mean, even the next one, I mean, so much of this is related to that topic.
Yeah.
But this particular to-do item is giving that information to your planning commission. So is this a 1?
I would
I
say a
think it's-
1 because we've got 5 years to get the information to them and 5 years to educate ourselves. And
What does that mean anyway? What kind of formality does the data and understanding have to be in? I mean, I'm just thinking we could kill a couple of birds with one stone and just include hiring somebody as part of our walks and talks series to come and talk to anybody who's interested about that. And that could include, you know, a formal invitation to the planning commission.
So am I hearing a 1,
I
think
give it
so.
a higher number.
a 2? Again, this is not Act 171, it's in its entirety. This one is specific to your work with the planning commission on this issue.
I'd give it at least a 3.
Okay, other
I
thoughts?
think we need to start looking at this, and there's some implications for not having an understanding of where our wildlife corridors and our highest priority forest blocks are, because we're looking at prime wind on this ridge with the T-work wind. This map here. 2 Rivers out of Queechee, wind energy potential on that ridge. No constraints. There's no constraints because no one's ever flagged it as being a high priority forest block, connectivity, wildlife corridor, all that. And that worries me.
Okay,
I know Michael's not here, but this was something he was interested in, so I'd reflect that he probably would. I guess that he would also support it being more of a priority.
The other
he
thing
needs to speak for himself, but I would agree with what you're saying, but
is,
you know.
the other thing is
so a 2 or a 3?
for conservation, like the land trust, they're looking at high priority forest blocks and lands with significant wildlife corridors. And if it's not labeled as being high priority, they won't, they're not interested in conservation. There've been people in town that have approached the land trust for conservation and they're not interested. They don't think there's anything up there based on the map. I just think it
Okay,
affects a lot.
Can we split the difference and say 2? Like someone, we had 1, we have 3.
Okay.
Are we at 2 or 3? What do you think, Betsy? Are you a 3?
I think Michael would put it higher as well, but
it is unfortunate that he didn't show.
Right.
Uh,
It isn't.
all right. that's
Right on,
okay.
this is gonna
Well,
come up,
you know, nothing wrong with putting it at a 3,
Okay.
that we do need to pay attention to.
So, but this
I
says, this is just the
Over
part
the
of
next 5
providing the planning commission.
Yeah, yeah, which is
Okay.
gonna take some work on
Absolutely,
our
so we
part.
have to like dig in.
Yeah.
And it's
And
5 years. Yeah.
So that will
Yeah.
keep us sort of on our toes.
and to be clear, that, what that work would look like would be reaching out to me.
Yes.
Like, I'm the guy
Okay.
that does that work in
And
this state.
that's good to
Like,
know.
without a doubt.
And don't you think that's important work for us to be looking at?
Well, I do think it's important work.
Okay, good. Everyone happy with
Move on.
Work more with coverts to encourage conservation in forest plots.
I put that at least a 3.
Well, first of all, let's talk if we want to move that forward. So that's specific to working with coverts. And so coverts is, you all know coverts as a woodlands for wildlife, woodlands for wildlife. It's very much about landowner to landowner, empowering landowners to manage their land for wildlife. And so working with coverts means hosting walks on people's lands. I was in Williamstown last week, and both chairs, the former chair and the new chair, are both on the planning commission in Williamstown, and they were talking a lot about coverage. But anyway, it would be all about that kind of focus on walks and talks and events on people's land. So that's what this.
I say
means.
bring it forward. We just did one with them. 40 people came. A bunch of them were new landowners who were curious about what they should do. Like there was an appetite for
Yep.
that knowledge.
Great.
And there were foresters, there were forest,
That was good.
what are they called, farmers, where they're
Tree growth.
tree farmers,
Right
yeah.
on. And so then this one is about conservation in forest plots.
Yeah.
So what level of effort for working with coverts on this? I heard some excitement.
3.
Okay. Walks and talks series generally. So this could encompass, several of the ideas you've already had.
Mhm.
So I would suggest we carry this one forward.
Yeah.
And you all, as you work more with the ones we carried forward, could look at opportunities for lumping here.
And our mission is education. And we've been taking that pretty seriously.
You guys already posted events since the last time I saw you.
I'm gonna propose a 5. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
out on a limb here because I see 5 as we talk about it every meeting. And there's something, and I don't think actually the walks and talks we've done, I don't feel like have taken a ton of effort to pull off, but we talk about it and we make sure something is happening almost monthly.
Yeah,
I would do
Yeah.
that. I would do that.
And I've been thinking about, now that we could tie together the walks, the talks and the forest stuff in terms of having a series of talks all about forests, trees and forests and wildlife, et cetera, a series like we talked about, and have people come in and talk, and then also do some walking with that. So
Yeah.
you could have
There's a
themes.
5 on the table. How we doing?
I would go 5.
All right, so central to your mission. Sounds great. Develop an outreach plan to engage landowners in conservation options. So remember, this is specific to your work together, developing a plan to engage landowners in conservation options. So conservation options like doing conservation easements with a land trust or land management or equip, one of the NRCS programs. So there's that whole range of options. So then this one is specific to you all developing the plan for how you want to reach landowners to tell them about this range of options.
Well, I've talked to the Vermont Land Trust and the Upper Valley Land Trust, and basically they said, leave it to them. They didn't think that the Conservation Commission should be approaching landowners about conservation. They wanted to be in charge of that. So I don't know about.
Yeah.
So we haven't done that, other than the Cope's covered workshop was very good. People, we talked about conservation.
See, I think the coverts walks, the walks and talks series are all the
Ways
plan
to-
to educate landowners, and in there you could have the conservation, one of the land trusts come and talk, so that's sort of in what we're already putting.
Well,
out
the
there.
idea of engaging landowners about their options is in there, but this is specific to, do you all, in the next 5 years, want to develop an outreach plan?
No.
No.
Anyone want to push back on that? Okay. Create a town conservation fund. So this work is about, educating townspeople, going, pushing at you for your select board to get it on the
Well,
warrant for your next town meeting.
so this is what I'm confused about. We have it, we already have a line item.
We
already
have a line item, a conservation fund is different.
Oh,
It
okay,
is,
okay,
yes.
okay.
So a line item is for your operations, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So this is for you all to help buy land,
Okay,
like an eighth of
Okay.
1% on the sales tax or whatever.
okay.
And then you would accumulate money, and there are a bunch of different ways. Yes, it could be there are a bunch of ways that can happen.
Okay.
But anyway, there would be a separate fund, and it would grow to 20 grand, 30 grand, 70 grand, and then you, when working on a project with Vermont Land Trust, you would pony up some of the money. They would pony up the rest of the money to make a deal happen. So this is a specific legal entity
Gotcha.
that you all control.
Thank you.
The only thing that's of interest to me with that would be to help, for instance, a farmer that wants to is retired and doesn't have anyone to pass his land on to and wants to put it in conservation.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
But-
what this is about.
He doesn't have the money to go along with it for the maintenance,
Yes.
ongoing.
Yes.
There's funds required, like $20,000 by the land trust for stewardship.
Yeah,
and-
the appraisal
and
process,
so
the closing
Not
process.
only do they want the easement, conservation easement on the land, but they want another chunk of money for stewardship of it.
Mhm.
And if the Conservation Commission had a fund that could help those people with the stewardship part of it, I think that would be helpful. But I don't see us outright having a fund to buy land.
No
No.
town actually has enough money to buy land from the
Right.
conservation funds. This is almost always just the town ponies up a fraction of it because they're such huge deals. But the land trusts want the town to have a little skin in the game. And so that's overwhelmingly what conservation funds are used for.
Like helping Belmont Brook, like helping the White
Yeah,
River.
I think there's a lot of things. I mean, I read a little bit about, like, there's a whole process to apply to a town conservation fund so that, and I don't think we know exactly where that money who it would help or how or what at this time. It's
Right.
just, do we want to have a fund in town that might do what you're talking about, or any other acceptable
Yeah.
conservation thing that we want to.
Well, so would that go in up to our line item thing? that
It
we
would
already
be
have?
separate.
It's
It would be
separate.
Separate.
Yeah.
And
It's-
how would we go about creating, it would just be by donation or we have fundraising?
There are various legal mechanisms, but you would look,
For grants? or
well, you sure could do that, but often the town would pay for it with a fraction of tax monies or other means.
It can be
This-
donation, it can
it
be the town, I mean, could be the town saying 1 cent on the tax rate.
Yeah.
It could be that the Conservation Commission says, look, we're gonna see if we can fundraise around our town conservation fund. So there are a lot of ways to, it's a fund you build on. And-
Yeah.
And somebody, not, some, you have a manager for it.
Does it
Uh,
get invested like other funds by our town investor people?
Auditors?
Not typically, but
Okay.
I hadn't heard of that sort of arrangement. There's a lot to learn here.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're doing webinars on these all the time. There's a lot here, but
Did you bring it forward with a 0? 'Cause I feel like I felt interest from you guys on this. Maybe I'm wrong. So maybe,
Interest, but we would need
I
to
don't know how
know
realistic it
our
is.
plan before we ask the town.
right.
That's why I would
ask the
use-
town for any.
I'd be hard to imagine that the town would vote to have any tax money to it. But you start somewhere.
But it was easy to get a line item when we said we're not asking for tax money,
Oh, yeah.
and then go
Create
from
the
there.
fund.
See, I don't know.
Why couldn't it go into that?
About the town's not ever going to, I mean, I think part of what we're about over the next 5 years is building credibility and building good relationships with other, governmental entities in town as well as with landowners. And so over 5 years, would we want to look into how you do it?
So am I hearing we should carry this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm hearing a level of effort. A 1? Throw some energy at figuring out what it means at least,
Yes,
okay? Okay, educate landowners about grassland birds.
Doesn't it happen on a bird walk, or could it happen on a bird walk?
I think that is
Well, they're
mainly
walking town.
pointed at farmers paying later in the season to.
Which is another line of one.
Yeah.
Oh, it was, okay.
The next one, yeah.
That's right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm hearing, am I hearing that this should get lumped in with walks and talks and this happens anyway?
Yeah.
Okay. Explore financial incentives for farmers to delay
Oh,
hay.
there it is, right there.
hmm,
I mean, I think, could that be part of the walks and talks too, like, just kind of following projects or whatever? Like a speaker comment. Like that.
But this is specific financial incentives.
Oh, so it would be telling farmers that they're incentives, like reaching out to farmers.
And are there financial incentives?
I don't know. but
Yeah, there is,
Yeah, there
there's
are.
the bobbling project is
Yeah.
something where people can donate money and then farmers can benefit
Oh.
from it. And so it would,
Does the BC Vermont Center for Eco Studies, they do have a grass.
Yeah, they do.
I don't.
And the farmers, at least in my experience, they know about, it. I mean, they know about
Yeah,
the bobolinks and they're aware.
Yeah.
Which is, I was surprised.
So are you all interested in exploring those financial incentives?
Not really.
no.
I'm not hearing it. Okay. A biannual Kids Fun Day. River Day, and Forest Day.
I think that's gonna happen on the town forest, anyway, by the forest committee, or is it the pavilion and all that, what do you call that, education outside that you're
The
doing?
Moratorium.
I don't know if that's gonna happen again, and
Oh.
I don't know if it would happen there. I don't know,
Uh-uh.
because the middle school is not gonna be in our town anymore, so shifting sands on that specific thing, but,
Anybody else?
I think this would be cool. Now being a parent with kids in the school and hearing from other parents, it should take shape a little bit more, like on an early release day when no one knows what they're doing with their kids. You offer an afternoon.
The library is certainly getting more involved, things like. this.
Right. I mean, it could be, do one thing in the spring and try it out or something.
Work in collaboration with libraries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important from the perspective of, just raising kids that are having more awareness of conservation.
Yes, I think I would carry that forward. Plus, it's like, yeah.
I'm hearing a couple votes for carrying it forward. Any concerns? All right, let's put a level of effort at it. Got 5 years.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
2, 3. I'm gonna put it at a 2.
Two.
That's fine,
I'm
that's
hearing- Just trying to read the room.
I see me doing this.
Yeah.
Maybe with some help, but I'm trying not to take on too much and be too gung ho about too much, so.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at a 2.
3 would put it over the
That's
top.
too much.
Over the top.
Too much.
Create a townwide scavenger hunt for kids of all ages related to the natural world.
Wouldn't that be kind of lumped in with the one prior?
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
library.
I understand they're different events, but.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, there's things people have that, those valley quests where you
Oh,
have
yeah.
cruise and you go around, or things like that could just stand on their own, that could exist all the time.
Oh, right.
Self-guided.
Geocaching. Yeah, but
It's a thing we could do. It's not something I'm super like jazzed about or quite can envision yet, so.
Was Joy just?
Yeah,
Jory.
Jory?
Oh, I was just wondering if this is a self-guided thing, whoever put it on there. Like, you make the list of things that need to be found, and then it's collected somewhere like central, like the library. And then there's some kind of a acknowledgement for having completed it, or, I mean, I don't know. I didn't put it on there, so I don't know what someone was thinking.
I almost feel like this could be something that happens with the library, but outside of the conservation.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, so I'm hearing, don't move this forward. Okay,
It's a good idea.
host environmental movie series at the fairgrounds.
I like that idea.
Okay,
I'm intrigued about what audience that would bring in. 'Cause I think it might be different than other things we do, which is kind of cool. But I'm not sure. I don't know.
And it's over the next 5 years, we have, not necessarily this year, we have to do it, but we could start thinking about what
That's-
movies we like.
Yeah, and it provides a different way to have a shared conversation. I like that.
Bring it forward out of
I'm
one.
hearing some
Out of
murmurings.
one.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
hearing 1, so you can explore it, all right? Host a book club and collaborate with the library.
I like this idea, but I think that it could live with the library and outside.
Yeah, I think the library's got a lot of momentum on it.
Yeah.
On that, without us.
Okay. Any concerns? Okay. Dedicated resource area in the library, a book nook.
Well, is there already a section that's got like
There's
the
a little.
vernal pool guide and
Yeah, so I met you talking about this, so it was kind of nice to just stand beside you and talk about which books that we had read, so this is an intriguing idea to me, just, probably because of my background, but,
Yes, she's a library.
yeah, so I think that we could spend a little time talking about if we're reading something, like, you know, if you, at our meetings, it's almost like the wildlife report, like, has anybody read an article or a book?
Yeah.
And then maybe talk to Maya and see if there's a place for us to say, like, you know.
She does actually have a section that's got recommendations now by people.
Oh, right, there could be.
Yeah,
like,
we could just have our own
conservation.
little-
So that, yeah, we could put our.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I'm hearing move this forward, is that right?
Yeah.
How are we feeling?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like, one or two, yeah. I don't think-
Yeah.
okay. We good on that one?
Yeah.
Move it forward, give it a 1, all right. Conservation Commission logo.
This was my idea, and I'll speak to it, just because, from like a marketing and being, as you want to be like recognized as a more serious organization, then if we do a talk or something, then our stamp goes on it, people start to see us as a recognizable entity. Not that I think it's, you know, the most crucial part of the work, but it could be something we circle back to later if we want.
It wouldn't require a ton of energy.
It wouldn't, yeah, but.
I move it forward.
Maybe we know a graphic designer or something.
Yeah, I mean, it could really be that easy. Like,
Yeah.
You ask one person, just make us a
And
logo.
we
Actually
And then-
have, this out patch, didn't
I was thinking of that too, yeah.
he makes environmental
Yeah, yeah. works with-
nonprofit patches.
with like local artists and different things. Yeah, he's a good resource.
Yeah, he would,
Yeah.
May I be so bold as to suggest this is a 1?
Yes.
Create a species, create series of species lists for local wildlife and plants. So these are lists of all of your trees, your shrubs, your insects, your
we
fish.
started on that with wildflowers.
Yeah, I don't think this was my idea, or I'm not sure, but, so we did this with wildflowers, we did, and there wasn't a ton of participation. The big trees had a ton of participation, and that was super interesting,
Yeah,
but
that, I don't know if you know about our big tree contest, but that was really fun. Yeah.
and we haven't done much with the wildflower list. I think it's super valuable, but I don't know if we figured out the audience yet, so, or how to use it. It'd be cool if we had someone who was looking at that list and publishing on Facebook, like, I'm like looking at myself, but I don't have the time to do it. And like publishing every week, like, this is what was here last week. this is
How
what-
about that fellow that
I
was
want to do that.
published?
Okay, that's
in-
what I want to do. Okay.
So maybe we do have an outlet for this information in it, and it is interesting, and we could carry on. I think it's kind of valuable data too, only as sort of citizen science stuff. So
We've got,
I'm really on the
a-
fence about it. That's all I have to say.
we've got a rare species of the native honeysuckle in town. And that might be interesting to, and orchids. Yeah. To have on this list.
I'm getting some really mixed messages on this
I
one.
totally
Um,
get very mixed about
So,
it.
can I speak to this one, because I think it goes to the next one, which is increased social media presence. And
Yeah.
Eliza and I talked about it, and then I was out of town for a while, but I wouldn't mind just doing that each week as I'm out in the woods, like taking pictures, just putting stuff on Facebook and Instagram, and it could be like 4 things you could see in the woods this week, or it could just be like I did stories today, like so many more people looked at those stories, but just found like a 3-headed dandelion. I don't know. People are on social media, and if it helps them connect with the natural world in the way that they haven't before, then I'm all for it. So I don't know about the list.
Yeah, what I just heard from you was a vote for the increased social media presence and using some of the things you see out in the woods as the fodder for that, for those posts.
I'm just willing to, to do that.
Do we want to do like a collection
of lists.
of lists, like every year we pick a different thing, like how many different tree
Oh,
species are in Tonbridge? How many different birds are in Tonbridge?
Yeah.
I kind of
I
like
like
it, but
it.
I'm not sure we've quite like nailed the like using that information, but I kind of do, it is kind of cool for me, it's interesting.
And that
I
is
think
one of
so.
our tasks as a conservation commission is to study and take an inventory of our.
Oh, it's here.
That's where the
natural-
scavenger hunt comes in.
Yeah.
I see that.
Again,
So I'm a yes on moving that create a list forward.
Okay.
How are others? I've heard two people talking about this.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think it's a good
it's
idea.
good,
Okay.
because we can't protect our, well, like, we don't know where it is or what's out there.
And then give me a number for level of effort on these lists.
Two.
Two.
Social media presence.
I heard a yes and 5.
I'm just gonna do it. I mean, I'm all in on that, so.
Yes, bring it forward.
Yes, bring it forward.
Okay. And now this, I hear that you're all in. I want to
Sorry.
I want to go back to what you had said earlier about, do we as a commission want to invest some time on this? And it's totally legitimate to have one person ready to take the lead and go for it. And so when I say, you as a commission want to move it forward, we can sure understand that there's one person in particular that wants to do that. But I think we want a little support.
I'm happy if somebody else wants
Yeah.
to move it forward.
It's the only way,
Talk
the
to
best way to grow the knowledge of the conservation space.
Okay. Am I hearing a 2?
I think we retired.
Well,
Yeah,
Well,
put it
because-
into.
Because, well, I was like, you're gonna be all over, you can do it. It seems like a high number to me,
All right, then let's give it a
right? 'Cause,
Like it.
create more robust conservation commission presence on the town website.
Would that be part of the social media link or?
No.
This one sounds to me kind of specifically about interacting with whoever your web person is for the town and regularly hounding them to get stuff on the page or getting editor privileges yourself.
Who does that now?
Jeff Hansen?
Jeff,
No, but who
Oh.
contacts Jeff about updating the meeting and posting the minutes?
I,
You do that.
mean,
And I
you
give,
use-
and we both do, I give them the minutes.
Yeah.
you give them the minutes, I give them the
the
agenda.
agenda. He, when I share things with him, he adds a little bit, like we had the birdhouse project, he put something at the bottom or something, some specific thing we did recently, he added more. I'm wary, I don't know how much we can ask of him, like the pages are pretty simple, I don't know how ours could look vastly different from somebody else's. And if that is our place to, I don't know, he probably has a certain number of hours he's paid and it's not, I don't know.
I bet you the Tunbridge Facebook page gets way more visits than the
I
town
was just gonna
website.
say, it's very one-sided. I agree.
And the Facebook is linked to the page, so on the side, you see our conservation commission posts, and when she puts it on Instagram, I put it on the Facebook, so it's there.
How much more robust is it gonna be? It's like,
Yeah, you know, I mean, like, if you
It could be,
invested
but-
in it, but I don't think,
It's not worth it.
I don't either.
Okay, let's.
No.
All right, I'm hearing not bring that one forward. I mean, you're already doing it to some extent, but
Yeah,
in terms of more robust than what you're currently doing.
We're okay with the robustness.
Okay, current level of
the
robustness.
robustity.
Excellent.
Robustity, I like that.
Robustity. All right, so create a system online for residents to report wildlife sightings and bird migration dates.
I hope that we want to bring that forward because, you know, I have a neighbor who's not on social media, but who calls regularly to boast about which birds she's seen that we that are at her house and are not at our house. And, but I, you know,
But is
That-
the
I think
online
it's a-
reporting system the way to
Yeah.
get that person?
Right.
well, it's just, I think people would respond to that. Maybe not that person, but I could do it for.
I would say, I feel like that's what Facebook is for, or Front Porch Forum. To some extent, you know,
Yeah.
people write when they have bears sometimes or whatever. Or coming to a meeting, you know, if we, you know, I don't know. Like we share out, you know, what have you seen recently?
I think similar to the robustness of the website, I'm not sure that many people would access to report on something that wasn't linked to Facebook or. Yes, I mean, I like the idea of the wildlife reporting and sightings, but I don't know how else to do it so that many people would participate.
Well, it's sort of like the wildflower thing. Not a lot of people
Right,
participated,
right.
but on Facebook or whatever, wasn't it? It was interesting, right?
Yeah, people were enjoying. There
Yeah.
were more people who were like, cool, likes,
Yeah,
hearts.
yeah.
That's true.
I think that might be, I think it's a good idea, really.
Right?
I mean, like, I don't understand, like on Facebook, the Conservation Commission already has sort of a page on.
Yeah, but this would be different. I think it would have to be Facebook. I mean, I like the idea, but I think it probably would have to be something like Facebook.
Facebook
Like I
or
like-
Front Porch Forum.
Like I like my birding, so I
The
go to
technology's
bird.
all there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a
Already
platform that people are already using. So we
Yeah.
can create a separate page that could be for like Tunbridge
Does
wildlife.
The Tunbridge
iNaturalist-
Conservation Commission,
Wildlife.
wildlife
Yes,
sightings. And,
Yes.
and
yeah.
would there be a way to sort of
And can you pull that
make
up?
it almost a little bit of a
Yeah,
I'm sorry, can we have just one conversation?
Sorry.
I
Yeah.
apologize.
competition
I'll use
almost.
example, like I like birding, so I look frequently on Vermont Birding to see who's seeing what, and then somebody started this other one, it's
Yeah.
Vermont Birding Plus, which is like wildlife. So I think if it was, Tunbridge Conservation Commission wildlife reporting, people would maybe put pictures and talk about bears. And, so
And we could.
then it's data that we
You
have. So.
could.
Yeah.
So creating a system could mean use iNaturalist and just publicize that Tunbridge residents are now using iNaturalist.
Another system that's
Or
ideal for this.
Yeah.
either,
So maybe we do a chapter, attend to.
so create a system doesn't have to mean that you build your own web platform for
Yeah.
this activity. So I am hearing some interest in this idea. I would suggest you move it forward and then figure out the Tunbridgean way that
Yeah.
that should look.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what does that mean? A one? I mean, if it were to be iNaturalist, you could make a one pager that explains it and then be a cheerleader for it for a while. If it were creating your own website with a MySQL database, it would be a lot more.
One or two.
What am I hearing?
one or two.
Okay,
One.
good.
One.
I'm gonna go with one.
One's great.
Okay. Amphibian crossings, locate the roads, monitor, caution signs, education on why and when it happens.
I think that could be combined with the wetlands and the vernal pool inventory.
From the walks and talks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a sort of a, if I hear combine, that actually, to me, that means that you would do a walk and talk about amphibians, but it wouldn't include the locating roads, monitoring, creating caution signs. So,
I think you're not going forward because of the specificity you're pointing out.
Yep.
And as we study the wetlands and the vernal pools, because right now I don't have really a sense of where the crossings are.
Right,
And I think it would be a good thing to know.
yeah, it's so important.
How we feeling, moving forward?
Yeah.
Okay. And then level of effort, and remember, we're talking specifically about locating those roads, monitoring, maybe making caution signs, education.
2.
This did score well on your votes beforehand. Okay, we are at 49 and we are headed to 69. That's not bad. And we're at 740. So yeah, we gotta pick up the pace. Okay, well-signed multi-use trail system in the two-town forests.
Isn't that the trail committee?
That's the Trails Committee, but we sit on the Trails
Oh,
Committee, so,
Well, yeah, right, but
So we're not going to create it.
yeah,
All right,
yeah, I guess we would.
that's the trails.
Yeah, okay.
Hunter?
I'm gonna bring up that Jonathan Bignell is emailing me like twice a day about this. I think we're doing that.
Okay,
I don't know, unless.
I think he definitely wants to.
He wants
include
to
the
do it with us.
Conservation Commission, yeah. And there were 3 of us that were at that walk in the town.
But does it
forest.
have
Am I hearing something different? Are you telling us that you're already doing this as a CC and that it should be carried forward? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I sort of thought we were interested in being involved in that prior to this. Like, I went to the forest committee to hear if, and one of the things they told us is, yes, you have a green light to develop trails.
Yeah.
And Brenda was telling us, this committee, that
Oh.
specifically. I was surprised a little bit by how excited Jonathan Bignell is about it. I wasn't hearing that from them earlier. So
Until,
I felt like it was coming to us. But I'm just trying to understand, are we really saying we're not gonna be? I mean, I might volunteer because I am a townsperson, but are we saying we're not gonna,
well, it
which
says.
is fine, I don't know how I'm
No,
not. getting in.
There's a trails committee, there's a conservation committee, there's a town forest committee, the town forest. The town forest committee is now saying, have at it. And they invited the trails committee and the conservation committee to come, and they said, have at it. You can make trails, you can do whatever you want, you can,
Well,
and you can make
Yeah,
trail
very-
systems.
I
And
think it sounds to me like passing the buck. I see this as a collaboration among the 3
yes.
committees or commissions, whatever they are.
No, it's
But I
committee-
don't think it's okay for the group that is called the Town Forest Committee to sort of push it off the plate. I think
No.
we can collaborate with all 3, all 3 of us together.
Absolutely.
So, Jory, is that a vote for moving it forward?
Yes, but not create. I would say collaborate. I would change the language.
Yeah.
Collaborate to create.
Collaborate with it needs to be reworded to collaborate with the town forest committee, the trails committee, and the conservation commission, collaborate together to create a well-signed multi-use trail system.
All right,
In the town forest.
I'm
in
gonna
the
carry
town
this forward,
forest.
and it sounds like it's a whole partnership, so it doesn't sound like it's gonna be a huge level of effort. Give it a 1.
Well, it will be when we actually have to build the trails.
I think they're gonna need the expertise of this committee to get people to go there, to like organize. I think it will take some of our time, like a 3. That's
Okay.
good.
How are we feeling about that? A 3 here?
Yeah,
Okay. Network with the 4 town CCs. This is not a big deal, because you could just ask me to do that. and I would. I actually really need to do that for you all anyway.
And I thought Ellen were you attending some?
I went to one and I missed the second one.
I've
Bring it
worked with
forward.
every one of these towns in the last year, and with my ABCC hat on, I can certainly call a meeting of the 4 towns and just make that go.
And they are, they're.
There are,
they're doing it.
Michael, Vital Communities is already doing that with, with,
With the
with those 4
ABC,
towns.
which is the Association of Vermont Communities, that was 4 towns. So that when the Mormons were gonna
Yes,
build the.
yes.
That's, and the Ashley Forest, but that group is still active.
Right on. Level of effort on that, I think can be really low.
Wow.
Data collection and survey of local sugar makers.
Whoa.
I like this project, but we have so many projects. so
Yeah, I would. I would suggest.
We can't do everything.
Hunt it?
Hunt.
All right. Identify potential funding for Conservation Commission operations. You already have a line item, right?
Yeah.
What does this
Yeah.
mean?
I think I said that because I didn't know that.
Well, no, but we don't have money. I mean, we only have birdhouse money in it.
Oh,
The funding part, we don't have, nothing goes in there except what we fundraise.
oh.
So this might be,
Maybe grant.
this
It's
is
an
like,
empty line item.
Whoa.
I think we do want to do some fundraising and that's gonna be an ongoing
Okay.
thing. I think that, yeah,
Yeah.
we want to maybe have a fundraiser once a year or twice a year.
So I'm
I
sorry,
feel like
I'm
I-
totally
that's-
missing what you're saying.
Is that what you're saying there? It's
Yeah,
basically identify potential fundraisers for the,
yeah.
We've
And
got the
maybe
other
grants as well.
birdhouse
Yeah.
projects.
Oh, okay.
For the back.
So I think I'm hearing move this forward.
Yeah.
Okay. And level of effort for identifying potential funding.
2, I think this is like a quarterly conversation.
We good?
Yep.
Explore creation of trail.
Village.
Violon to the true lot.
That would be under the trail collaboration, wouldn't it?
Would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The Drew, yeah. So I said,
Okay. Hunt?
Hunt.
Okay. Host community conversation about EAB. This did not
I would,
score particularly well.
I would put that too. That's more of the county forester and the.
I feel like we are derelict of duty if we don't consider, if we don't just have the conversation, so we are making a choice about when we're gonna spend a ton of money in this town, taking care of.
I couldn't hear that last part.
I think we're like derelict of duty if we don't have a conversation about when we're gonna spend a bunch of money taking down ash trees, just along the roadsides. Cause
You don't think we can wait until they die? Or see if
you
they
can,
die?
but then you have to spend the money.
If you wait till they die, it gets a lot, well, if you wait till they're very dead, it gets much more expensive because the arborists don't want to mess with it. Because ash in particular, when they're dead, they drop limbs really easily.
Oh,
And so the arborists would rather cut them when they're still sort of alive. Have one little bit, so it gets exponentially more expensive the longer you wait. So if you have a dead ash snag on the roadside, it's more expensive to remove than having a ill ash on the roadside.
would the tree warden be in charge of that? Oh, I believe that
Depends
would
on
be
the
a
town.
duty of the tree.
Who's our tree? Oh, Jim.
Jim Ludwig.
Yeah, maybe we could just put a bug in his ear. We can take it off our list. But somebody can put a bug in his ear about arranging something like that for the community.
The select board ruled this past year that instead of the town voting for the tree warden at town meeting, that they would appoint, the select board would appoint the tree warden. And I don't know if they moved any farther with that to actually appoint anybody, or whether Jim Ludwig is still the designated guy, but.
I think I'm hearing a punt on the host of community conversation about EAB.
Yes.
from the conservation.
Okay. Host a community conversation about coyote management.
Woof.
Woof.
It just could be very controversial.
Yeah, very controversial. I think maybe we could have a winter evening talk about it, but I don't know that we want to do on one side or the other necessarily.
So I'm
No,
hearing
it's only
related,
on one side.
Seems like a game warden issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Game warden.
Who you could have come and speak.
Yeah.
Right.
We'd ask Jens, who, maybe he's wanting to speak.
nope. Force blocks and connectors, I'm in. Okay, so I think I heard punt on the coyote management. You could include it as a walk or a talk, but not a community conversation, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Draft a CC statement of recommendation to the Schleichberg board concerning the proposed ATV use of Tunbridge roads.
Somebody already worked.
We
on that.
We're
moved
working.
to do that, and then we kind of tabled it for a while, but it is a topic that's.
Has to be done
It's,
now,
it's,
doesn't it?
it's not tabled. We were doing research between April and June. Look, people were going to be talking with people and looking up research articles, trying to find some research. And
So I'm
then we
hearing-
were gonna talk about it again and draft.
So where does that? sit?
Draft a
Was
letter.
Jory, were you doing that?
Well, Michael volunteered to do it. And I said I'd help him, but he's kind of spearheading it.
So
But
I'm
at our
hearing
last
this is
meeting, we got
ongoing.
assigned like
That's
topics.
ongoing.
and we got pretty deep into it.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is ongoing.
Yeah.
Level of effort. A 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Send quarterly postcards to all residents with the CC calendar of events.
I think we could just take care of that through the Tunbridge Quarterly.
Yeah, I don't think we.
There you go.
I
There
agree.
you go.
Okay. Host Tunbridge Conservation Crew Summer Camp 1 week each summer for children. This did not score well.
It's too much. It's too much.
Bunting? Bunting. Okay. Sell native trees and shrubs as a fundraiser each spring.
Well, that goes back.
I like the idea.
Previous one about.
Exploring funding
Yeah.
opportunities.
But also there was the general one.
Sorry, let's
Yeah,
just make
it
room
is-
for
that's-
Jory, please. I heard her. Jory.
Oh, I just said I like the idea. I hadn't thought too much of it about it until I saw it on the list.
Carry it forward,
Good
or
fundraiser.
should we leave? I mean, we already have that placeholder for exploring funding.
Yes, that could go under it.
Yeah, I would.
Do you like this particular fundraiser enough that I should highlight it or leave it as an explore fund?
I think there's a problem with these jumping worms too. I don't know that the library should be having a plant sale. Infestation going on locally, and
All right, so I'm hearing, keep it as the explore funding.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
We
yeah,
good?
we'll remember.
all right.
We'll remember.
We already had this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll leave that one.
Yeah.
Bald eagle sightings.
I propose the next two we already have
Okay,
in the sightings thing.
any objections to punting basically on these because they're already included elsewhere? Okay. Riverside walking trail along the first branch, perhaps just on the fairgrounds property to start.
I think the Trails Committee is looking at this, and Jonathan brought up whether we could, well, Rudy brought up connecting the Drew lot and the garage lot. And then Jonathan brought up extending that into North Tonbridge Village along the river.
So then this falls into all that's already kind of going on.
With the Trails Committee.
So I'm hearing punt.
Yep.
Okay. Bat sightings.
Same as the other sightings.
Okay, bat, we good? I'm sorry. I'm trying to be efficient, but I don't want to be too efficient. We good? Okay. Bat houses.
There's another fundraising.
That goes under the, wherever the
Maureen, you got a
fundraising
fine,
thing
didn't you? Maureen made like 80 birdhouses, so we made a ton of money.
Bluebird.
But bluebird houses, it was a
Get
big
your rat
project.
house plans out.
All right, so what I'm hearing is that we have that covered under the explore potential
Yeah.
funding.
Yeah.
All right, create a long-range plan for public use of the town forest.
That would be included in the forest collaboration.
Yeah.
Right.
So that one that we already highlighted as.
Yeah.
Are we good with punting on this,
Yeah.
with the understanding that it's already done? Last one, host events related to the first branch. You already have walks
I
and
think
talk
that's
series.
already, yeah, we already have cleanup.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
And we're exploring.
Yeah, we
Woo.
7:54.
All right, so the first step is we save it. Okay, it has been saved. So the next step is I'm going to take the one, we're not gonna lose any of these ideas. So you will have this spreadsheet. I mean, you still have access to the Google sheet, but I will give you all of these ideas. I will move everything that's in yellow to the top. Then I'd love to meet with you in the next week or so to explore how we then begin to put those into the calendar. And so then I would suggest that we take a first swing at that and start assigning times. And I'm not going to be very helpful here because I don't know your capacity but I'll help you do that. I think it'd be best if we took a first stab at that. And then at your next regular meeting, all of you should weigh in on what that plan for the next 5 years looks like. So specifically, it will be like this with
Oh,
these are months. And so you could flag different segments for each of the highlighted items. Like, okay, we're gonna work on this for this 4-month period during this year. And so that's the goal, is to move towards, you have just those highlighted items as your work plan. You have the next 5 months, with 5 years with all 12 months, and you start assigning things. And some of those, the Walks and Talks series, it's gonna be a solid line from here to the end of the next 5 years, because you're gonna talk about it every single meeting. And it's just gonna be ever present. That was literally your only number 5. Everything else was a 3 or less. And so there'll be, chunks of time where those 3s get scheduled. So that's the idea of where you're headed with this. So when you'll see a first draft of that, hopefully at your next meeting, and then you can begin to fine tune that. And it's not the end all be all, it's just a plan, but it gives you a sense of what level of effort and timing for different events. The more you check back and look at it, the more useful it will be to you. If this is a one-off planning exercise, that in and of itself will be helpful. And a couple years from now, you'll remember like, hey, didn't we talk about that? And then maybe you'll get some energy for it. So even what we've done tonight will be helpful, but it'll be more helpful if you regularly look back at your work plan and it says, oh, hey, this says that in October of 23, we're supposed to start such and such. Is that something we still want to do? And then you can continue to adjust it. So the more it's a living document, the more you refer back to it, I think the easier it'll be. That's also going to be really helpful to you all in feeling more focused. That you have a sense of where you're headed. You have discrete times associated with things. And even if the times on the work plan aren't exact compared to reality, I think it will still help you feel less overwhelmed by all the noise. it's also a good idea for you all to remind yourselves of how many awesome ideas there are out there and how little, in the grand scheme of things, capacity you have. And so the work plan can also be a helpful reality check, that when somebody says, why aren't you guys doing this, this, and this? You can say, well, we're doing a tremendous amount. Look at our plan. And so we can't just take on everything willy-nilly. We've got a plan, and these are the things we think are most important. So my closing words to you all are, use this. It's a living document. You'll adjust it. But the more you refer back to it, the more it will help guide you, and the more it will help you let go. Because we good-natured people who are trying to save the world want to do it all, and we hold on to stuff. And sometimes it's really helpful to have a document or somebody saying, hey, you can't do it all. Let that go. You've got a plan for what's most important. So you can cling to this thing as a lifeline. Like, here are the things that we agreed are most important. It's also true that you're going to have a shifting landscape of humanity here on your CC, right? You're going to have new members come in that may not be as excited about some of these items, and they might be. The work plan will be really great for a new member to see, because it will show them that you have a plan. Man with a plan, isn't that something?
Yeah, right. I think it would be important for the planning commission to see that as well.
Yeah, especially since you're taking pretty seriously all the things that are in the town plan.
I thought also the select board, both the planning commission and the select board,
Well,
to see
other
the plan.
commissions in
Because
the
that-
town report to the select board regularly, at least annually, and we never have been called to speak to them, so we never have, I haven't really.
Well, in December, we kind of, it kind of fell by the way, but we assigned, people took on different
Right.
committees and commissions, and I do believe that going forward, I do believe that the chairperson should regularly go to a select board meetings, and be seen. It may not have anything to say, don't need to have anything to say, but just be seen and occasionally have something to say. That, and along with these other collaborations that are starting. And that somebody probably should regularly go to the planning commission meetings as well. And we had sort of assigned people, and then we got overwhelmed with all sorts of stuff. So if we could come back to that.
And we've gotten a number of new members, three new members. 4,
All right.
Michael, so.
So it has been such a pleasure to meet with you. It's really great to be here. My work with you is not done. So I'm going to continue to advance this document and work with Ellen to fine tune it so it's as useful to you as we can make it. It is on my to-do list to call a meeting of the CCs in this area, and I will make that happen. Yeah, and if you want a dog and pony show about forest blocks and connectors, I'm your guy.
And
We do.
how about?
We do.
House 171.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
That-
forest blocks and connectors,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's good.
Awesome.
Excellent, it was
Yeah.
extremely helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, really great.
Jory?
Yeah.
Full-size George.
What?
You just showed up on the big screen.
I know, I saw that. There I am. You had snacks?
Yeah. Girl Scout cookies.
Jeez, so sorry I wasn't there.
Yeah.
She's in like New Hampshire, that's why.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, right.
Right.
God bless the grandmothers, guys.
Yeah, amen to that.
Excellent. So that's-
Yeah.
Great.
Who wants to take?
Are you set, Jory?
I'm set. I'm gonna leave.
Okay,
We'll see you at the next meeting.
okay.
Hey, but it'll be Zoom if it's on a Monday. Wait a minute, though. In the summer, my daughter will be home on Mondays, starting late June. So during the summer, I'll be available in person.
Our next scheduled meeting is June 27th, which is the fourth Monday of June.
I will probably be able to come in person.
That's good because that's the, we'll have an agenda,
Great.
obviously with this, but it's also a time for us to elect officers for the.
Okay. And it sounds like if you're taking care of that kind of business, talking about changing the day from Monday, that would be a good time to
That would
do
be
it.
a good time,
Okay.
yes.
All
Yeah.
right, good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it'll be a real business meeting.
And something else I wanted to put out there, I know you're looking for a rep from the Conservation Commission to go to the Trails Committee. I wouldn't be able to do that, but if there was somebody you needed to go to meetings, collaborating with the Trails Committee and the town forest people around building the trails in the forest, I'd be willing to be that person.
Betsy is the person who goes to the Trails Committee meetings.
Right.
Conservation, but
I wouldn't want to go to be a Trails Committee rep. But
Right.
if there was somebody who needed to do
You would-
planning with the other two groups, I could help with that.
the actual planning of the trails,
Yes.
yes.
Well, yeah, whatever is involved in that.
No, yeah, that's good.
Memorials that you have.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah, good,
Okay.
that's good.
It doesn't.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Say that.
Later.
It doesn't look like when I'm sharing
I'm going
her
to end.
posts that they're ending up on the website that you can see. And if you click through